and without seeking to cast myself as some kind of moral exemplar because it's rather late in the day to try. Nonetheless, this was an event yesterday that began with a moment of silence for the victims of the air crash and the president's own invocation of, quote, a loving God. And then he uncorked that expletive to insult a former cabinet officer. It was the same expletive that I saw him use in the East Room in 2020 when he famously held up the Trump acquitted headline. My question is, if you could shed any light for us on how the president perceives his use of public profanity, which is a practice that certainly sets him apart from all of his predecessors. Does he regard it as an effective communications device, part of his appeal, or is it something that he lapses into inadvertently, perhaps in times of frustration and later regrets?
I think one of the things that the American people love most about this president is that he often says what they are thinking, but sometimes lack the courage to say themselves. And I think yesterday at this podium, you heard President Trump express great frustration, perhaps even anger, with the previous administration's policies, many of which have led to the crises that our country is currently facing and that this president is focused on fixing.
The theme of Donald Trump's presidency is quickly becoming, we told you, so we told you. It was going to be a disaster. It was going to be chaos. That prices wouldn't come down. In fact, they would only be skyrocketing up because of Donald Trump's disastrous agenda. And that is exactly what is happening. And it is about to get worse because of a plan that Donald Trump just announced that is backfiring horrifically on him. And we are going to get into all of that before we do. If I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. And it goes a long way now before we get into Donald Trump's plan that is just horrifically backfiring on him. I want to get into some of that. We told you so with what VP Harris had to say about his plan months ago.
What Donald Trump plans to do. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries. That will devastate Americans. It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. A Trump tax on gas, a Trump tax on food, a Trump tax on clothing, a Trump tax on over-the-counter medication. And you know, economists have done the math. Donald Trump's plan would cost a typical family $3,900 a year. At this moment, when everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher.
Here's the truth about Donald Trump's favorite word, tariffs. It's actually a different word, taxes. It is a tax on American consumers. What Donald Trump will be implementing effective ACVE February 1st, a disastrous tariff plan that will hurt all of us, and Trump doesn't really seem to care because he just wants to project strength, but he's really going to care when the people he promised lower prices for turn around and everything's up 25-50%. They're going to be furious, and it all starts with this right here.
Hey, friends at Reuters are reporting that the president has made a decision on the Canada and Mexico tariffs, but that they won't actually be implemented until March 1st. I was wondering if you could confirm that and talk through some of the president's thinking there.
I saw that report and it is false. I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
The president yesterday said that last night.
So, of course, Donald Trump has been talking about this plan for a while now. It was just officially announced. And what is so key to it being officially announced by Caroline Leavitt at that press conference isn't what she said in that moment, isn't even the preparation that came before. It is what happened in immediately after Carolyn Levitt said that Donald Trump's tariff plan was going to be going into effect. Now, of course, Democrats have been highly critical of this. Republicans have kind of as well, but they've been doing it a little bit more quietly. Well, Mr. Trump, maybe we take it back a little bit. Maybe we don't do this. But Donald Trump's own propaganda outlet has now officially had enough. They're fed up because look what they had to say and point out.
Said promises made, promises kept. That will be happening. 25% for Mexico, 25% for Canada, 10% tariffs on China. There was a bit of a market reaction. You can see the Dow off more than 200 points. If you pop up the big board, John, you'll see right about the time she confirmed that these will begin tomorrow, shortly after the 1 o'clock Eastern time hour. That's when you saw the Dow sell off. Not a huge sell off, but there was certainly a reaction to that.
Well, they have still got 10 hours to try to avoid tariffs before they snap into place at 12:01 a.m. So I wouldn't be surprised if the president hears from Canada and hears from Mexico and maybe even gets a call from his friend Xi Jinping. Don't know.
That is why I wanted to play that clip of Caroline Levitt, because the second she said those words, nosedive immediately goes down. Donald Trump is already negatively impacting the economy, and the tariffs haven't even taken effect. This is what is going to happen. This is what is already happening is the point. It is already happening. Businesses have been preparing for months now to raise prices steadily and then immediately. Because of Donald Trump's plan, they know what the impact will be. It seems like the only people who don't know what the impact is going to be is Donald Trump, and he's going to quickly learn in the worst way. And everyone who voted for him, who fell for this trap, again, the trap we tried to warn them about, and the response has been quick. Like I said before, it even takes effect. One of Canada's MPs responded saying this, right here.
We are here this morning, my friends, as an unlikely group with leaders from across the political spectrum who've come together with cultural leaders, artists, academics, athletes, labor activists, and Indigenous militant activists. We represent the incredible regions of our beautiful country, and we are here for one reason. Our nation, our beloved Canada, is under threat. It is an economic threat, but it's also a threat to our values of decency and inclusion. It's a threat to our sovereignty and our very future as a nation. The threat comes, of course, from the President of the United States, a convicted felon and known predator. He's threatening massive tariffs to try and break us as a people. But the threat is also being driven by the hate algorithms of the oligarchs like Elon Musk. And there is the threat from people in our own country who would sell out our birthright to appease the gangster class from Mar-a-Lago. That is not going to happen.
We told you, so we did. I know you're watching right now, throwing your hands up in the air, exhausted by this, that we had to warn people that other countries would respond. Businesses would raise their prices. Things would get more expensive. We've already seen the price of eggs skyrocket. Donald Trump doesn't seem to care. We tried to warn people. It was so abundantly clear, but they didn't care. They didn't care. And now we're getting this result. We tried to warn them. We tried. And so did Jasmine Crockett in this clip right here.
Going to have to pay for this. It's kind of like that wall that we're still waiting on Mexico to build, right? That they're going to pay for it. No, we're going to pay for it. We're going to be the ones that are suffering. And for those that thought that inflation was bad, even though it has come down, even though that it is honestly, cooled off here a lot quicker than it cooled off in the rest of the world, let me just tell you, it's time to buckle up, Buttercup, because it is about to be on and popping if for some reason he gets half of this done. And right now, looking at the henchmen that he is trying to put into his administration, we are on track to see a lot of these negative things impact our economy.
Now, one of the, in a weird way, I would say the best case scenario probably for the country and also weirdly politically for Trump would be to basically just not do it and say he did. You know, the kind of like sort of just lie about it, essentially. And I do think there's some indications of that. So he just posted about Claudia Sheinbaum, who's, of course, the new president of Mexico. He says he had a wonderful conversation. She agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. I should note, this has basically already happened. It's been happening for about 8 months now. Border crossings have been near zero, right? They've essentially zeroed out. We also talked about what to be done to stop the massive drug inflow of the U.S. Very productive conversation. Again, no one knows. This was so weird about these. He says, I'm going to do this massively destructive thing. Basically, everyone on Wall Street and the Republican Party is like, he won't. And now we just sort of find out, like, will he, won't he? Will he do it for a few days and not? That's sort of where we are.
Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, he instituted tariffs not as deeply as what he's proposing this time, but he did do it last time. And so I don't see why he would necessarily change course, because according to him, the people definitely wanted his type of economics back, not actually realizing that it was Obama's economics. And I will point out, just like you said, when the Mexican president responded to him, what she said was, listen, this is not only going to cause you a problem as it relates to trade, because, two can play that game, but this is also going to cause you an issue as it relates to immigration. And she was highlighting basically that she has been working in a cooperative way to make sure that we could stop some of those crossings at the southern border.
I really don't like the idea that people have to learn a really painful lesson of having their lives upended by Donald Trump's disastrous policies to realize that his policies are disastrous and Republicans are not looking out for them. But gosh, if that's what it takes, I don't know. I voted for Vice President Harris because I wanted people to live in dignity and safety and comfort. Because I wanted her to continue the policies that Joe Biden put in place to invest in our economy, to create more well-paying jobs, to make sure that the redistribution of wealth took place in some form, that we could make sure that the wealthiest of the wealthy didn't continue to rake in the billions, while everyone else made less, that the riches of America could be shared amongst its people. I don't want to see people devastated by this, but it seems like it is what's going to happen, and we have to call it out. We have to explain to them why, and we're going to be doing so every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you soon.